real estate is a tough business. We will share stories here that you won't hear anywhere else. So join us to learn the truth and avoid those costly mistakes.
We're John and Kalen Sledge, and this is the Think Like an Appraiser podcast, cautionary tales in real estate.
This is episode number 12 of the Think Like an Appraiser podcast, cautionary tales in real estate. And today is a special edition of our podcast because we are recording this on February 22nd, 2021, just after the Snowpocalypse, as they're calling it, hit the United States, and Texas was below freezing for over 5 days.
Right. I mean, it was a crazy time that most of us in the South, at least, are not used to, and our homes aren't built for that type of weather, where for 4, 5, 6 days, we were below freezing with days, below 10 degrees, snow between 6 to 8 inches on 2 different occasions.
Yeah,
and
2 different
right.
snowstorms in a week.
Right, we had one day in the middle.
We go 10 years without snow.
Right, and we went, there was one day in the middle where it got up to 40 and then back down to another 5, 6 inches of snow and down into the teens. And in that time, there were homes that were without electricity, without water for multiple days. And
we were fortunate. We were without electricity for 24 hours, but the temperature inside the house was about 45, 44 degrees, and we were very cold.
We were, and I talked to multiple people whose homes were below freezing inside for 3 or 4 days.
And when that happens, I mean, our pipes are not insulated. We now are dealing with everybody coming out of this thawing, and water pipes are bursting, and the houses are flooded, and it's just a nightmare.
Right, because we have freezes, but we don't have this. This was a historic level, and we don't freeze for multiple days. We don't have that hard a freeze for multiple days. Nor, you're right, we don't see snow, but at least about once every 10 years.
And what was amazing is no one had any place to go, because everyone you talked to or texted, as we were, trying not to use the power on our phone because
right.
we weren't sure we could charge the batteries on our phones, but there was no place to go. You couldn't go drive 3 hours and stay with family because they were dealing with the exact same thing. It was crazy.
It was. And so what we decided is we were going to do this special episode because so many people, and it's not just in Texas, I mean, all across the country, are dealing with the repercussions of this horrendous storm and the things that happen when you lose power and your house is below freezing with burst pipes and the damage that causes to walls and ceilings and flooring. And so we wanted to look at, as we're going into this repair phase and to fix our homes and get back to where we started, what can we do differently? What improvements can we make on our home since we're having to do some changes? We're having to do repairs and we're having to file claims with our insurance company to get these repairs completed.
So we hope you find value in this episode, and be sure to stay to the end because we've got some specific questions to ask plumbers and contractors during this process.
Right.
So today we want to share some ideas on how to turn this tragedy and all the repairs everybody's dealing with into an opportunity to increase the value of your home if you're going to have to do the repairs. And you can do that by thinking like an appraiser.
Right. I mean, I think the key to this is, sure, there's certain things you have to repair immediately when a storm comes through and causes water damage. You got to get it cleaned up. You got to get the plumbing repaired. But when you're looking at new flooring, or you have walls that have sheetrock damage due to water, do the demo work, get it all cleaned out. But if you have some time to stop and look at the comparable sales and do research to see what an upgrade, or what would constitute an upgrade, in your community that would make your home more valuable, take the time to look at that, because it's a perfect time to do that.
It is, and I know it's hard. I know everybody wants to get their house put back together. But I think you might, first of all, you don't have time to really find someone you trust
Correct.
to work with. And I know in Texas, there are people who are not licensed that they're approving to practice.
Right.
I know with the plumbers,
some of the apprentices and that
Right.
aren't fully licensed are able to go out and do repairs, and so you just don't know what their level of competence is. They might be very good and have worked with good people all these years and have good skill level. But one of the things about rushing in is you're going to be competing with everybody else who wants to get their home fixed quickly.
well, and if you do find someone who's available, there might be a reason that they are available.
Right. Sure. I mean,
Right.
You just don't know. And also material, your choice in materials. So if you're replacing flooring or you're doing any kind of changes, if you're limited on your choices, the cost could be higher, or you might not get something that really adds value to your home.
And you might be making a snap decision too.
True.
And use it as an opportunity to do something a little different that will add value to your home.
Right.
Because really, you're only investing the difference between what your insurance settlement is and the cost of a higher quality material.
Right. So if typically you decided, okay, I'm going to raise the value of my home by changing out the flooring, whether it's a builder grade tile or laminate floors or whatever it might be, to a higher end wood flooring or a travertine flooring to increase the value. If you were going to do that at any other time of the year, you'd have to pay to demo the whole house, all the new materials, and the installation. Where if you're having to replace these floors and insurance is going to cover the flooring replacement, then you're only paying for the difference in the material. Because typically your installation costs are the same.
Right. Your labor costs
Should be similar.
They should be, which is why if you can splurge, you do your splurge now.
Right, because then you're only paying for the additional cost of the materials.
Right.
So
exactly.
I think it's a great time to take a step back and make that determination so that you can do an upgrade and only cost you a portion of the cost that it would typically cost.
So let's talk specifically about some things you could do to flooring to add value to your home. So we're going to talk a little bit in appraiser terms.
Right.
We're going to use the quality ratings levels that we teach in our courses.
Sure.
But I know that I think this will be interesting to people because I know the luxury vinyl is such a hot material to use right now.
Right.
And I mean, there's certainly pros with it.
It's very durable. It gives it a nice, clean look.
It's great for a rental property.
We utilize it in that respect a lot.
Great with pets and kids. But does it really add value to your home? So let's talk about some of the flooring levels.
So we'll use the quality rating scale, which is from a 1, which is one of a kind homes, to a Q6, which would be uninhabitable. So we're really not dealing with those ends of the spectrum. We're going to be dealing more with the middle. So,
and just to clarify, these are ratings that the appraiser uses when they go through a house and they're determining the quality of the home.
Right. And we use that because that way the lower the number or your quality rating is, which would make it a more superior quality, the higher the value that the appraiser is going to assign. So when we look at any renovations we do, we want to look at it through the eyes of the appraiser because that's where the market value is going to be determined when they come through to appraise your home.
Okay, so let's start at the Q4.
Okay.
Because Q4 is kind of builder grade.
It is.
So you have Q4, and then Q5 is a level below that.
Correct.
And Q6 is uninhabitable.
typically in a Q6, you won't have flooring.
You won't have, right.
So
just a subfloor type
right.
situation.
And so then if you move up to a Q3 or a Q2, then those are improvements, and that's the direction we want to take you here. So you want to be looking at, okay, am I at builder grade now? Then we want to go up a level. So you'd want to go from a Q4 to a Q3. So let's start at Q4.
Okay. So Q4, typically you'll find your luxury vinyls there. Standard tile.
Yeah, so your 12 by 12 ceramic tiles that you'd find in most builder grade homes, and carpet. So those, I would say, are your most common builder grade. And like we said, builder grade, there's nothing wrong with builder grade. That's just the level that you're going to find in a builder tract neighborhood throughout your city. So that's what they're going to typically put in, and then anything above that would be an upgrade.
So a step below builder grade, which is a Q5,
right?
You would find your laminates.
Yeah, the press and stick vinyl tiles, or a sheet vinyl flooring. So typically you don't see those near as much as you would, but those are definitely below a builder grade. So that's not what you would typically get when you're buying a new home today.
Right. Exactly.
So if you're down there and you move up to a luxury vinyl, so if you're a Q5 and you can move yourself to a Q4, then you're adding value to your home. What we try to do is, if we can move from a Q5 or a Q4 to a Q3, then you're really seeing some differences in the value there.
Right.
But any improvement you can do adds to the value of your home. It's just to what level you move it to is to the amount of value that it adds, and how the comparable sales, what sales prices are selling for.
So the Q3 then is a step above builder grade, and you're going to find your engineered hardwoods there. Nicer, the ceramic tiles.
Still ceramic tiles, but your nicer ceramic tiles. Some of the pattern tiles, or you could have even typical ceramic tiles that have accent tiles in them, or different sizes of tiles is a nice way to add value. So if you utilize a pattern and use different sizes of the same tile, that actually adds to value.
Even if you were using a standard tile, which
Correct.
would typically maybe be a Q4, if you did a pattern with it, a Versailles pattern or one of those, and you use different sizes, that adds detail, and it's a custom look and would move you up to the Q3.
And that is one of the things we talk about and we teach a lot, is you can take builder grade materials and make it have a custom look, and therefore it changes the quality level of the product.
Right, exactly. It's just like taking a subway tile and creating a herringbone pattern out of it. Anytime you do something a little different, it's going to catch the appraiser's eye, and it's going to make the appraiser think, ooh, this is unique and it's custom, and unique and custom adds value.
Right. It's a higher quality than what you would typically get in that neighborhood.
Okay, so moving up to a Q2, this is where you'll find your travertines, your solid oak floors.
Right. So not an engineered wood, but your solid wood floors, travertine, stone tiles, that really takes it up and to the Q2 or almost the highest level. So that's more of a custom home that would have those type of finishes. So if you're in it, so you're at a Q3 typically with engineered woods or ceramic tile with patterns, and you can move to a travertine and it's cost effective, then that definitely moves you up in a value quality determination there.
So, I think the key here is just not to get in a hurry and just replace what you had, to really think about it. And one of the best ways to know what the other homes in the neighborhood have is to get on places like Redfin, Zillow.
Right, because you can look at these homes and look at what they're selling for. If you can find the ones that have already sold, that's even better. But if you can find, what the higher end homes in your neighborhood, and then look at the pictures and say, okay, what do they have different than what I have? And if you can make those changes, because that really is where you're going to find the most value, because the appraiser is going to look at sales in your neighborhood. So he's going to be comparing, and if you can compete with the higher end homes in your neighborhood, then you're going to reach the higher values that you want to achieve. And so that's whether it's a sales price or refinance. The appraiser is going to determine it based on sales in your neighborhood. So a good way to do that is to find out what the upgrades are being used so that you don't overbuild for the neighborhood, but to make sure that you're getting the biggest bang for your buck.
And if that's something that interests you and you'd really like to learn about how to analyze it, we can help you with that. Go to thinklikeanappraiser.com, and we have classes just on that topic.
We do. That'll teach you about the quality ratings, and we'll also teach you how to utilize them to determine what renovations you should do to improve your home.
Right, and achieve a higher value. So let's talk about walls and ceilings, because we know with water damage, you're going to have, your flooring's going to be damaged, walls and ceilings are going to be damaged.
Right. Well, one of the things, and this is just kind of going to tie back into your flooring. So if you're having to change out your flooring, most likely your baseboards have been damaged, or they're going to have to be removed to put in a different type of flooring.
Right.
One of the things we do, and that I recommend because it gives a lot higher end feel, if you can come in with a beefier baseboard, say a 1x6, smooth 1x6 baseboard all the way around, it adds, it just catches people's eye, and it definitely has a more custom feel and a more updated look. Mm-hmm. So I definitely would, if you're in the process of changing all that out, give it a beefier baseboard, and that'll add a little custom look to it as well.
Yeah, that's a good point. So with walls and ceilings, we all know anytime you can add a wood accent, that's wonderful. Shiplap is so in right now. Everybody's using it. And you can do different patterns with it too. Right. You can use it horizontally. You can use it vertically. You can create a grid pattern with wood. It's just nice. We know that it's the texture that the wood brings into a sheetrock situation, which sheetrock box, if you have a sheetrock box,
then you're a Q4, you're a builder grade.
Right, exactly.
And so that's a great point, because sometimes you making a whole wall, a wood shiplap wall, isn't cost effective. It's too expensive. But one of the great, you talked about grids, if you take trim wood and build grids on a sheetrock wall, then it adds texture and it adds a focal point that really gives it a higher end custom feel to that room at a very low cost, additional cost to it, because it's only a little bit of wood that you're having to add.
I know for a long time people, and when I say people, HGTV, they would say, do an accent wall, paint it another color. That's going to be the focal point. When really, in my opinion, adding another paint color is fine.
Right.
But it's when you can add a different texture to the room that really makes it feel custom.
I agree. Yeah, because the paint color, sure, it draws your eye to that. It is a focal point. But it doesn't change the value or change the quality of the home, where the different textures do.
Textures do, and they're so important. Another thing you can do is you can use the space between the studs to build shelves.
Right, you can. On an interior wall.
On an interior wall, and do wooden shelves, and it's just a great, it adds texture and a different depth, and it just...
No,
it doesn't cost that much to do those sort of things.
No, it doesn't, because if you're replacing that sheetrock anyway, the wall's open. So making these little cubbies or built-in shelves, I think, is a great idea at almost no additional cost.
Let's talk for a minute about, all right, we need to find somebody to work with. First of all, before you can do any of these upgrades, you've got to fix the plumbing issue that caused the problem in the first place. So most everybody will be working with a plumber during this time. And I know it's just such a nightmare. Water damage, it's amazing what water does. And it gets into every crack and crevice. And then you might have mold issues. And, our hearts go out to everybody who's dealing with that, because fortunately we are not, and we feel very, very lucky. But we do have a couple of suggestions of specific questions to ask someone that you're hiring for the job to make the whole thing run a little more smoothly, and to put you in a position to know exactly how much you're going to be spending on the project.
Right. And when you ask these questions, it also tells that person that you're knowledgeable. And the good contractors out there are going to give their pricing the same across the board. But the people that might be looking to take advantage of somebody during this tragic time, if you ask the right questions, then you'll be more knowledgeable, and you're less likely, you'll be able to vet out some problems that you might not have seen otherwise.
Right. And again, I'm just going to emphasize, if you have the time and not get in a rush, you're going to be better off.
Right. Because most people out there are doing a quality job, and they want to take care of people and do the right thing. It's just the few people out there, they give everybody else a bad name. And so this way you can protect yourself.
So when you're getting a bid from someone, make sure that you ask them, or you specify, what is the scope of work that you're planning on doing, which I know in a repair situation that can get a little tricky.
Right.
They may not know until they get the sheetrock torn out. But you need to make sure that the scope of work that they're doing will get you up to code and get the job completed.
Right. And that's the key, because if they're going to do, we'll just fix this. Well, is it fixed to code? Is everything repaired? You need to know exactly what it is they're replacing and what is repaired, and to what level, and what that's going to cost, so that you can, before you let them start working.
Right. So just make sure you get that scope of work in writing so that you know what's included in that bid.
Right. And so that takes us to another point. Let's talk about that bid for a second. What I always recommend, and what we talk about, is you want your bid to separate out the labor and the materials, because the labor is not something that you can control. It's their time, and it's what they charge, and you need to know that. But the material cost is something that you can control, because you can either do an upgrade at this point and say, wow, I can afford a little bit more, then we're gonna upgrade some of the materials that are utilized. But it's also ensuring that you're getting at least a similar quality to what you have now, if not an upgrade, because you definitely don't want somebody coming in and saying, oh, I can repair that bathroom for this amount of money, and you come back later and the quality of the materials that they've utilized are subpar.
Right, exactly.
So that you've actually lost a quality rating in that room instead of made an improvement.
Right, that's a good point.
Knowing exactly what it is they're doing and what the different costs for labor and materials, I think, is a critical piece.
Here's a good question. What kind of guarantee do you offer with your work? Sometimes that question will catch people off guard, and they're not sure.
Right, because if they're replacing water lines or fixtures, cutoffs in the wall, you want to make sure that if something goes wrong, that you've got some recourse there. They'll come out and fix their work, that if there's additional damage, their insurance is going to cover that. I think that's, and right along with that, since I just mentioned their insurance, make sure they have insurance, that they're covered while they're in your home. Because if they do something and don't repair something properly, and it causes more damage to walls that you've just repaired, you want to ensure that their insurance is going to cover any mistakes that they make.
And make sure that, or at least ask, is the bid that you're giving me, does it include a contingency? Especially when we're dealing with repairs like this,
right? Because
they may not know exactly what they're getting into, and you don't want them to be halfway through the job and then they turn around and it's going to cost you double what you originally had planned.
Right. So because there are unknowns when they're getting in there. And so if theirs doesn't include a contingency, you need to make sure your budget has a contingency funds, because when you're doing these type of repairs or when you're doing renovations of any kind, if you're opening something up, you don't know until you get inside what it truly is. So you always want to make sure that you're not having to not finish something because the budget's not there or the funds aren't there to take care of any unknowns that come up.
And remember, these questions need to be asked before you start this project. Right. Again, it works better to address all of these things beforehand, so there's no surprises.
Yeah, one of the other things that I would have your plumber check is what's the water pressure to your house? And most people, when they hear that, they probably think, well, oh yeah, I want to make sure I've got plenty of water pressure to your house. That's true. You do want to have plenty of pressure so that the water comes through all your fixtures properly, but you don't want too much pressure, because that actually, in homes, that are built in the 90s or before that have copper piping in the walls or in the slab, if the water pressure coming from the meter is too high, it can actually over time cause ruptures or cause pressure related failures.
And you don't want that, especially after you've just had everything repaired.
Right. So it's something to check, because they have a pressure relief valve that they can install on your side of the meter that will regulate the pressure before it gets to your house to ensure that you're not going to have any of those type of high water pressure failures.
And this is a perfect time to have the plumber check that.
Yeah, because if he's in there doing work, it's always a lot cheaper to add something additional to work they're already doing than have them come out and do one standalone project.
Well, I hope that these suggestions help you through this difficult time. And I hope that you take the opportunity, if you can, to add value to your home and not get in a hurry. And if there's anything we can help with, if you have any specific questions, don't hesitate to reach out to us. We will certainly try to help you in any way that we can.
Right. And we love your questions and your comments, because it gives us an opportunity to add more value to our podcast and to answer questions of our listeners. So we appreciate you, and we're here to add value and to give you quality information.
So good luck to everyone in all of your repairs, and we hope that they run smoothly.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode. Please do us a favor and subscribe or follow on the platform that you listen to your podcasts on. And also, if you would leave a review, we sure would appreciate that.
And if you find value in our content and you find the topic of real estate interesting, we'd love for you to join our Think Like an Appraiser community. You can go to thinklikeanappraiser.com and join there. Thanks a lot.
See you next time.